The year was 2391, and the galaxy was alive with sound. Messages and trade routes lit the stars every second. From the smallest merchant ship to the grand halls of the Galactic Council, voices spoke across the void. Empires argued. Traders bargained. Explorers sent back songs of new worlds. Through it all, Earth was always there, a steady, stubborn voice among countless alien tongues. Humanity had risen fast in the last 200 years. They were bold, clever, sometimes reckless, but always present. No one expected that one day Earth would fall silent. It began without warning. One moment, the deep space channels were filled with Earth's chatter weather reports. Music, news, research, data, and then, in the blink of an eye, nothing. Not static, not distortion, just silence. At first, the Council thought it was a technical glitch. Communications often failed in remote systems, but then the silence spread. No relay station from Sol responded. No orbital satellite picked up a signal. Even deep-range probes lost contact. Earth had gone dark. Rumors began. Within hours, some whispered about an asteroid strike or a planetary disaster. Others claimed an invasion had taken place. A few suggested something worse, that humanity had discovered something so dangerous. They had cut themselves off on purpose. In the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, representatives of hundreds of species gathered. The air was tense, bright. Holographic stars floated in the center, Sol marked in sharp white. The delegate from the Kolari Confederation clicked his mandibles nervously. "It has been 2 days," he said. 2 days without a single signal. "We must send ships to investigate." A deep-voiced envoy from the Varel Union disagreed. "Humans are unpredictable. They may have done this for reasons of their own. Interference could provoke them." "They are a young race," said another. "Too young to play dangerous games. Something has happened. We must help." The debate went on for hours. Inside the chamber, the galaxy listened. On dozens of worlds, ordinary people looked up at the night sky, wondering what had happened. To the blue planet, merchants worried about lost trade. Scientists feared the loss of human research. Soldiers thought about war. On the third day, a ship from the border system of Telrose reported strange readings from the edge of Sol's space. The sun's light glinted off something in orbit around Earth, something not listed in any council record. No distress beacon. No broadcast. It's just silent, motionless shapes. Then, in the middle of a heated council argument, an encrypted signal suddenly broke through the silence. It came from Earth, but it lasted less than 2 seconds. 3 words. Clear, deliberate, and cold. Do not interfere. The chamber froze. No one spoke. The words were repeated again and again on news broadcasts across the galaxy. What did they mean? Was it a warning? A threat? A plea? The Council's security advisors met in private. Their analysis was unsettling. The message used a code the Council had never seen before, something entirely human. It had been transmitted with such speed and precision that most ships couldn't have intercepted it in time. Someone on Earth had meant for the Council to hear it, and no one else. On the 6th day, more reports arrived. Observation drones sent toward Earth stopped transmitting without explanation. The faint glow of the planet's cities could still be seen from orbit, but no signs of movement were visible. No ships left the atmosphere. No satellites turned, and yet something was still alive down there. Some believed humans were victims of an attack they could not speak about. Others believed the silence was their own doing. But a small, uneasy group within the Council began to suspect something, far more troubling, that the humans were not in danger at all, that they were preparing for something. And the silence was the first step. In hidden conversations, certain leaders admitted their fears. Humanity had always been curious, always pushing limits. They were known for finding ways to turn simple tools into dangerous weapons. If they had found something powerful enough to change the balance of the galaxy, they might want time to test it. Without the Council watching, still public pressure was growing. Alien news networks demanded answers. Refugees from Saul's colonies were begging for news of their families. Trade guilds threatened to withhold resources until the mystery was solved. The council could not simply wait. And so, on the 10th day, the decision was made. The council would send a peace fleet to Seoul, officially to offer assistance and investigate the silence. Unofficially, some members hoped to secure whatever new technology humanity had discovered, but deep in the shadows of the chamber, an old Kolari delegate muttered to himself in a language no one else understood. He had studied humans for decades, and he remembered their history, how they reacted when pushed, how they responded when threatened. The words "do not interfere" echoed in his mind. Heavy with unspoken meaning, he feared the council was walking into something they would not understand, something they could not control, something that would change the galaxy forever. Far away, beyond the reach of the council's finest scanners, Earth waited in the dark. The fleet moved out under the banner of peace, its silver hulls gleaming. Against the black, hundreds of ships from different species, all sworn to follow the council's orders, gathered in tight formation before slipping into faster-than-light travel. Official broadcasts told the galaxy this was a mission of help and unity. But inside the sealed meeting rooms of the flagship, the truth was different. The council wanted answers. They wanted to know why Earth had gone silent, and if possible, they wanted whatever the humans were hiding. Many in the fleet were uneasy. Stories about humanity's rapid rise in power were still fresh in memory. Within just 2 centuries of joining the wider galaxy, humans had gone from fragile spacefarers to one of the most resourceful civilizations in known space. They had won wars they should have lost, had built weapons no one fully understood. And now, without explanation, they had shut themselves away. The first glimpse of Seoul came as a pale light against the dark. Sensors stretched ahead, scanning for signals, but they found nothing. No active satellites, no public broadcasts. It's only a faint, unnatural hum coming from Earth's direction. As the fleet drew closer, that hum grew stronger, too regular to be random, too strange to match any known communication. On the bridge of the flagship, Admiral Yura of the Virel Union frowned at her console. "The atmosphere is different," she muttered. Readings showed massive energy signatures swirling across the planet's surface, far larger than any civilian power grid should produce. It was as if Earth itself had been wired for something far beyond normal use. Then came the first sighting. Orbiting just beyond the moon were objects sleek, dark shapes with no registration codes. They weren't in any council database. Their surfaces absorbed light, making them hard to see. Didn't move like debris. They drifted in perfect, calculated patterns. The fleet's translators could find no match for their design. The council's representatives debated sending a greeting signal. Some argued that it was the only way to show peaceful intent. Others warned that sudden contact could be misread as aggression. In the end, a compromise was made. One small diplomatic vessel would move ahead and broadcast a simple message of peace. The little ship glided forward, its message loud and clear. "We come in friendship. We seek only to help." It never finished. The sentence. Without warning, a flash of light burst around it, not from a beam or missile, but from the ship itself. Sensors on the fleet's bridges screamed alarms. The vessel had been destroyed instantly, as though something invisible had reached into its core and torn it apart. No explosion, no wreckage, just empty space where it had been. A heavy silence fell across every ship. The council leaders demanded explanations, but no one could offer one. There had been no detectable weapon, no trace of hostile fire. The only thing certain was that the attack had been precise, deliberate, and impossible to block. Still, the council refused to turn back. Some saw the destruction as a defensive measure, not a declaration of war. Others were too proud to retreat. Orders were given to continue advancing, but slowly as they did, the dark shapes in orbit began to move. They turned in perfect unison, their smooth black hulls aligning toward the fleet. Sensor crews whispered in disbelief as they realized the objects were not stationary defenses, were ships, massive ships, unlike anything the galaxy had seen. A voice crackled through every communication channel, deep and mechanical, carrying no emotion. Last warning. Leave orbit. The message repeated twice, then went silent. Some captains argued to comply and retreat. Others demanded to press forward, to show the humans they would not be intimidated. The admiral torn between her orders, and her instincts hesitated. In that moment of hesitation, every ship in the fleet detected a sudden spike of energy from Earth's surface. Something huge was powering up, something buried deep below. The readings didn't match any weapon in known archives, but the scale was undeniable. In the flagship's strategy room, an old recording from human history was brought up a file. Marked Project Black Horizon. It was only a rumor, a ghost story told among intelligence circles. Last resort system the humans had supposedly been building for decades, meant to activate if the entire planet was threatened, if the rumor was true. The Council had just triggered it. From the far side of the moon, shadows began to move. They were enormous, too big to be fighters, too fast to be stations. At first, the fleet's scanner struggled to lock onto them, as if their surfaces bent or swallowed the signals. The shapes slid fully into view, sharp and angular, their holes blacker than the void around them. No lights, no markings. Just the kind of design that whispered of purpose, not exploration, not transport, but war. The Council fleet watched in silence as these colossal vessels spread out in a perfect formation, surrounding the incoming ships without ever closing the distance. Their size dwarfed even the largest dreadnoughts in the Peace Fleet, and yet they moved with uncanny precision, each change of speed, perfectly synchronized, as if guided by one mind. The comms lit up. A single transmission came through. Every frequency at once, crisp and without distortion. Last warning. Leave orbit. No introductions, no negotiations. Just the same words they had heard before, now spoken with a tone that carried more weight and unshakable certainty that the humans were not bluffing. On the bridge of the flagship, Admiral Ura's second-in-command shifted uneasily. "Holding fire," he said quietly. "But they've targeted every one of our ships. We are completely locked." The fleet's sensor crews confirmed a Teach shadow ship had weapons trained on a specific target, though no one could see them. No glowing barrels, no charging emitters. Whatever the humans had built, it didn't need to show itself before it struck. A nervous diplomat from the Kreath Dominion tried to break the tension. Against standing orders, he sent a scanning pulse toward Earth's surface, hoping to gather data on the strange energy signatures. His ship's instruments managed to record a fraction of a second's worth of readings. Then everything went black, not just the scanners. The entire ship. Lights died. Engines went cold. Life support systems went silent. In seconds, the vessel drifted powerless in space. Emergency backups wouldn't start. No distress call could be sent. From the outside, it looked as if the ship had simply been switched off. "Systems interference?" someone asked. "No," the fleet's chief engineer replied, his voice low. "That was control. They didn't damage it. They just took it." The dead ship continued to float aimlessly until one of the shadow ships glided silently toward it. A beam of pale blue light washed over the powerless vessel. And then, without any visible docking, the ship's lights came back on, its engines restarted, but its navigation was locked to one course away from Sol. The Council ships were shaken. This wasn't destruction. This wasn't even traditional warfare. This was something else entirely, a kind of dominance none of them had ever seen before. The Admiral's jaw tightened. "They can disable us without firing a shot," she said. "And they can give control back, if they want to." Whispers spread across the fleet. If humans had this kind of power, they could take entire armadas without shedding blood. And if they could do that to a warship, what could they do to a planet? The shadow ships didn't move closer. They didn't demand surrender. They simply held their positions, silent and watchful, as though waiting for the Council to make its choice. But in every captain's mind, the choice was already becoming clear. One wrong move. And this wouldn't be a negotiation. It would be a demonstration from somewhere deep below Earth's clouds. The massive energy readings continued to rise, steady and deliberate. Whatever humanity had been preparing for it was almost ready. Without warning, every shadow ship spoke at once. The voice was human calm, steady, and cold enough to make even the hardiest captains lean back in their seats. For centuries, you watched. You studied us. You took from our world. Now, you will leave us alone. This is not a negotiation. The words carried on every channel and every language the council could understand. The translators worked instantly, but the meaning was already clear before the machines finished their work. The humans were not asking for peace. They were declaring boundaries. In the council's private communication link, chaos erupted. Some leaders shouted for immediate withdrawal. Others demanded a show of force. A few argued for diplomacy, saying this was a misunderstanding that could still be resolved. But no one could ignore the way the shadow ships remained perfectly still. Weapons or whatever passed for them locked on target. Then another message came, this one more personal, more pointed. The galaxy was never safe, the voice said. We just let you believe it. The words rippled through the fleet like a chill wind. What did that mean? Did humans know of a threat greater than the council itself? Or were they speaking about humanity? A moment later, the answer began to take shape. Across the fleet's data screens, new files appeared hacked in, bypassing every firewall. They were fragments of private council communications dating back months. Secret messages between certain delegates, detailing plans to secure and contain Earth's new technology before it could upset the balance of power. Some even discussed stripping Earth of its most advanced research, whether humanity agreed or not. The Admiral stared at the damning evidence. They've been inside our networks, she said. All this time. The leak was deliberate. Within minutes, the information reached every ship, every captain, every crew member. Trust began to fracture. Some species accused others of plotting, the whole mission as a cover for theft. Long-standing alliances cracked under the weight of suspicion. The human voice returned, softer now, but no less dangerous. We saw your plans long before you acted, every word, every lie, and still we waited. We hoped you would choose better. You did not. The council tried to respond to explain, but the shadow ships ignored every hail. The humans had said their piece, and they weren't interested in debate. Meanwhile, the energy signature from Earth reached a peak unlike anything recorded before. It was no longer just on the surface. It pulsed through the atmosphere. Into orbit, brushing against the fleet's sensors like an invisible tide, systems flickered. Navigation maps warped for seconds at a time. A quiet fear settled in the hearts of the commanders. This was not the threat of a planet defending itself. This was the power of a species that had decided it no longer needed to explain itself to anyone. The Admiral realized then that humanity wasn't warning them to leave because they feared destruction. Humanity was warning them because they didn't want to destroy them, not yet. It began with a single flicker. One moment, the Council fleet's communication channels were alive with urgent chatter captains arguing, diplomats shouting, engineers shouting over failing systems, and then the voices cut out mid-word. Screens went black. Status lights dimmed. Every ship sat in sudden, smothering silence on the Admiral's bridge. The crew scrambled to re-establish contact, but every attempt failed. Long-range comms were dead. Even short-range signals between ships were gone. The silence wasn't just in the fleet. It was in the stars themselves. Across alien space, entire sectors went dark. The effect spread in a perfect, calculated pattern like ripples in water. Faster-than-light communication hubs failed one by one, each blink snuffing out a voice. On distant worlds, leaders found themselves cut off from their allies, their fleets. Even their colonies, trade routes collapsed. Defense networks broke apart. The Council's analysts realized too late what was happening. Humanity had activated something vast, something hidden for years, a network of devices placed in secret across the galaxy. The humans called them silence nodes. No one knew how they worked, but every species understood their effect. They severed connection. They turned the galaxy into scattered islands in an endless ocean. Back in Sol, the shadow ships didn't move. They simply drifted, their black holes soaking in the starlight. The human voice returned for the last time, quiet but carrying an edge sharper than any weapon. Now, you will know how we felt, lone, surrounded, watched. The words hung in the air for a heartbeat. Then the voice was gone. The council tried to plead, sending desperate short-range transmissions toward Earth. There was no reply. The shadow ships began to turn away, sliding back toward the far side of the moon. One by one, they vanished from sight, leaving the fleet hanging powerless in the dark. On the surface of Earth, the lights of the great cities began to dim. First one skyline, then another. Whole continents went dark, their outlines swallowed by night. From orbit, the planet looked like it was sinking into shadow. And then something far stranger happened. The stars themselves began to flicker. Not all at once, but in slow waves across the sky, like constellations winking out. Some ships thought it was a trick of their damaged sensors. Others swore they were watching the universe itself grow quieter. No. One in the fleet could be sure whether the humans were leaving, hiding, or preparing for something else. All they knew was that the voice, the warning, the silence had changed the galaxy forever. From that day forward, Council's maps of known space meant less than they ever had. Without the flow of constant information, worlds turned inward. Borders shrank, fear grew, and somewhere beyond reach, humanity moved through the dark. Unseen, unheard, and entirely in control of Winor, if they would speak again.